For our next segment, we caught up with Pastor Ladell Graham, and as many of you may not know, he is also an investment guru, and we're going to hear a little bit about that just coming right up. We're in the home today of Pastor Ladell Graham, and Pastor is teaching on a very interesting series at this present time that impacts all of our country. And we wanted to stop by and get you to chat with us about that just a little bit. So welcome to our show, Pastor LeGraham.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about this new series that you're focusing on called Comfortable in Captivity. And when I heard about it, it hit close to home in a lot of different areas. Watching the news, in my community, in my home even. And I wanted you to take the opportunity today to share just a little bit about what Comfortable in Captivity is all about.
Well, you know, comfortable in captivity, so often I believe that we live in the greatest nation in the world, and it is the land of free. But so often there's so many people living in the land of free, but they are captives, and they are comfortable in their captivity. And what causes us to be comfortable in captivity is really complacency.
Okay, Pastor Ladell Graham, and one of the things that you are talking about in one of your series at church is comfortable in captivity. Talk to us about Comfortable in Captivity, what that series is about.
Well, Comfortable in Captivity is a series that really came about as our team sat around the table and began to look at our nation, began to look at the elements of our nation and the people that are in our state. And we really looked at individuals who are really comfortable, and they are comfortable not in a place of being free, but they're comfortable in captivity. The Bible in Isaiah 42 says that they were sitting in their prison houses and the doors were open, but no one would do anything, nor will they say anything.
I'm sorry, we got to stop again.
Yeah.
One of the series that you are ministering on this month, Pastor, is Comfortable in Captivity. You want to share with our audience what Comfortable in Captivity is all about?
Well, I believe that we live in the greatest nation in the world. It is the land of free, but there are so many people that are living in the land of free, but they're not free. They are in captivity, and they're comfortable in their captivity. And you know, the Bible talks about that in Isaiah 42. It says that they're sitting in prison houses and the door is open, but no one will do anything, nor will they say anything. And so I began to look at what is it that causes us to be comfortable in our captivity. And I believe that it starts with complacency. Complacency is where individuals are under the control or you're under the authority of another thing, but you give the appearance of being free. And I believe that in 3 areas that all over America, people are comfortable, but they're not really living the life of freedom. And they're comfortable politically, they're comfortable socially, and they're comfortable economically. And therefore, that comfortableness starts out by being complacent. And when people are complacent, then that complacency moves to a place of apathy. And apathy is without feeling. And when it moves to a place where people don't really care what's happening, then apathy leads to secularism. And it's essentially where there is a separation between a standard or separation of religion versus the way people will live their lives. And then when secularism sets in, then it moves to a place of egocentrism. You know, but the amazing thing about secularism is that it says that all moral values are equally valid. All religious viewpoints are equally valid. All political viewpoints are equally valid. But the challenge about all of those things being equally valid is that there's no way to judge what's right or wrong simply because there is no standard. Anything that you think is okay is okay. And then when that moved to egocentrism, it says it causes individuals to focus on themselves. And people say me, my, I, and it goes to a place where individuals cannot put themselves in other people's shoes. And as a result of it, they do what's right in their own eyesight.
So basically you're saying that the principles or the things that this country was founded on, we're moving away from a lot of those principles. You said that there are three components. Where do you see this? And I know that for me, some of the things that I see as you know, that just get played with, I would say, in parenting, even for myself. Some of the things that I allow my children to do, my grandparents wouldn't have ever allowed us to do. Some of the things that I see being played out in this country just would never be, wouldn't have ever been years ago. So we're getting away from the standards that this country was built on. And a lot of this is in the news. I know lately, I was just watching it, how some people, even some of the local commercials that are being played, how we take people's titles off of their names and just move away from respecting the office and not necessarily the person, whether you like them or not. So let's talk about some of those things that are affecting our nation and that are ultimately changing the way, the standard for America.
Well, one of the things that I've seen is that that the nations, whenever complacency sets into a people, it's very much like cancer. And at one time, Egypt was the most powerful nation in the world. They lost that. Then Babylon became, then Persia became, then Rome became, then England became, and now the United States is the most powerful nation in the world. The real question is not who is the most powerful nation, but who will be the next most powerful nation, simply because those nations were powerful for about 200 years. And we've been the most powerful nation for almost 100 years. And the challenge is that when their complacency sets in and people are comfortable where they are, they stop moving forward, they stop advancing, then complacency sets in. And when that happens, then everyone wants to do what they think is right. And because there is no standard, individuals began to just live for themselves rather than live for the benefit of others. And I believe that President Kennedy used to say that it is not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
And speaking of that, what can we do for our country? You're one voice. This is one group of people that will hear this powerful message. But how do we set a mandate or charge the rest of this country to take a stand against things? Or why aren't we seeing this in the news media as much as we're seeing this reality concept for what news is?
Well, I believe that that's what has happened. Complacency has really set in, and it destroys potential in a people. It destroys relationships, and complacency also destroys financial positions. I'll give you a perfect example. Whatever occurs on television is considered normal, and ultimately people began to live that out in their lives. So we see what occurred in television in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s. But we're seeing something now where you look at a 1-hour television show, you will see multiple sexually explicit commercials that don't have anything to it. Perhaps they're selling perfume, perhaps they're selling jeans, but it's a very sexual overtone. And what happens is desensitizing the country to the values that it was found on. I believe it was Patrick Henry in the House of Burgesses in 1700s. He addressed them, and he says that America was not found on religion, but on Christianity. It was not found by religionists, but it was found on the gospel of Jesus Christ. And because of that, it affords others of religious freedom to come here and exercise their freedom in religion.
So then the challenge here in changing this being comfortable in captivity, where does that start? In the church? Does it start in the White House? Does it start in the home?
I think it starts in the home because every system starts with the family. And I believe that what happens is that families are complacent. People are complacent in relationships. Right now, because of television, people are looking at relationships and focused on romantic fantasies rather than commitment and hard work.
And where did this all come from?
And it comes from television that has given us a model of what relationships should be like. So people don't want commitment that comes with hard work, but you can't do anything without commitment.
So is this the fault of the church? Because, or where did the ball get lost?
Well, I believe that the church has a responsibility and a role in it. And is it the fault of the church? I believe that the church has a responsibility. And that is that I believe, particularly politically, that individuals should begin to speak out and voice their opinion as it relates to their standard, their beliefs. And when that standard or that opinion is communicated, then it's communicated in every facet of living, including the polls. And what I find is people effectively go to the polls. They may not know the candidates, and they will vote for individuals that they remember their names, who had the most commercials on television, who had the most negative campaigns, but they don't know what those individuals stand for. And so as a result of that, people are voting, and their voting, it effectively says that their intelligence is being mocked at, simply because people are not becoming intelligent voters, but they are complacent and they go to vote for an individual, but then they vote for a whole group of individuals. And so I believe that it starts with the individual. The church does have a role, and I'm fully persuaded that when the church is silent, then unrighteousness, or let's say it like this, when the church is silent, then the lack of the standard began to scream out, and the enemies of the standard voices become very, very loud. And what we're hearing right now are the voices against the standard being very loud.
Okay, and so then there are far more churches today than there were 100 years ago, 20 years ago even. But the church doesn't look like it did before, and I'd almost have to say that based on what I see in the news and what I me as just an average citizen, I don't hear that voice from the church. You're probably the first to speak out about a subject like this that I've heard about. So where's the challenge, and how do we fix it? Because we need to change it.
Well, I agree, and I believe that we can go to, let's say, Judges chapter 17. The Bible says that there was a group of, in the book of Joshua, it says that there was a group of individuals, a generation that grew up that did not know God. But then after that, it goes to Judges 17 that says that there were a group of people who did what was right in their own eyesight. And there was no standard, or there was no king. And so people did whatever they thought or they desired to do. And if it feels good, do it. And that's what happened. But then in Judges 19, the standard in society was so low that the society became very perverted. And we are seeing that today. That when we talk about being comfortable in captivity, there are good comforts, but then there are bad comforts. And being comfortable with the right temperature in the room is a good comfort. But to be comfortable flirting with the opposite sex if you're married, being comfortable flirting even with the same sex, we have to say today, it's a bad kind of comfort. And there has to be a standard where we're going to live our lives. And that standard must come based on, I believe, what our country was founded on. And it's a national treasure that needs to be rediscovered.
And I'd have to say that just thinking about this as you're talking about it, in the news just in the last few years alone, a lot of our leaders have been the ones to really demote the standard, I guess you could say. I spoke with a group of college students a few years ago, about 2 years ago, about 5,000 of them. And one of the things that they had the biggest problem with was our leaders. At the time, there were sex acts in bathrooms, politicians. There have been bad things going on in the pulpit in our own churches. And these kids have just lost interest in following after anything that could be, in the old days, cited as a role model. So with this series, how do we get it out? How do we make this stand? How do we become a voice? What else can we do? I mean, how do we take the family back? How do we take our position back in this country and go back to the my country 'tis of thee sweet land of liberty, land where my fathers died? I mean, how do we get back to that?
Well, I believe that every person must take ownership. Because if we live in this country, we are citizens of this country. We have ownership in this country. Very much like an owner of an entrepreneur who is focused on growing a healthy company. So too must we be focused on growing a healthy nation. And I believe that it starts with the family. So as a result of that, when we look politically, individuals must become knowledgeable about what are the political issues, be knowledgeable about what candidates' positions might be, and to vote the standard. And I believe the standard is the Bible. We should vote the Bible. Because if we vote the Bible, we're essentially voting according to the intentions of the founders, our forefathers, and how they founded the country. The challenge is that what happens is that there are so many segments. Our society has become segmented. So we like to vote for women. We like to vote for nationalities. We like to vote for old, young, how someone looks. But the real issue is we should be voting the standard. And a standard is simply this. It is something you stand on. So if there's no standard, there's absolutely nothing to stand on. And a standard is not something we're trying to live up to. It's what we refuse to live below. So I believe that politically, that individuals must begin to vote the standard. Secondly, I believe that socially, that there must be a demand by the families, by the parents, that television reflects the values of our nation or the standard. And when there is something that is on, then if you are a parent and you have the authority in that house, why allow that to come into your house? I believe that there are several things that can be done. One, don't watch it. Two, is to write the actual production company or Hollywood and begin to voice your opinion about it. I saw that there's a movie that's coming out, and this movie, they have cut a section of this movie out simply because the gay activists said that it portrays us in a bad light. And so as a result, that Hollywood cut that portion out of the movie. Well, if it works for a segment of the population, shouldn't it work for a standard in the entire population? So I believe that those are several things that can be done. And I believe that, frankly, to a degree that we watch too much television over the course of a week. 33 hours, the average person watches 33 hours of television per week. Now, what are we saying? That's another full-time job. So recognize that if we would use some of that time and pursue our passion, begin to look at how we can create wealth, how can we better contribute to our nation, to our country, to our state, then we are now looking at the greatest power in the nation, and that is a people that's actually contributing to the place where they're living.
Very good. And when we come back, we'll talk with Pastor Graham about the Champion Center Triumph. We'll be right back. All right, so good then. We'll start now.
Okay.
We'll let you talk a little bit about the Triumph Champion Center,
Okay.
but we're also going to be starting to do your piece. So a lot of this, Darnell, will be...
I'm going to start on the two-shot.
Okay. So Pastor Ladell Graham, there is a new breed of champions in the Great Wood area, in the greater Houston area, and abroad. And that is the Triumph the Champion Center. Tell me a little bit about the ministry.
Well, it's a wonderful place. Triumph the Champion Center, it is a place where we believe that God has called us to raise champions to fulfill dreams. We believe that the church should be relevant to everyday lives of people, and people should not grow only spiritually, but they should grow in every facet of their lives. And so Triumph the Champion Center, we are focused on equipping, encouraging, and empowering the people we serve to live successful Christian lives. So there is a standard by which they're living their life. And so when I speak of raising champions to fulfill dreams, what does that look like? It's people who are living their potential with healthy relationships, healed in their bodies, and financially secure. So everything that we do is focused in those 4 areas. And I am so excited, and we're seeing people who are discovering that natural ability that God has given them to be exceptional.
Okay, very good. That one shot?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then now I want that was a one shot?
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is a one shot. I want you to talk about somebody has joined us.
Who is that? Justin? Jonathan?
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Okay.
I'm trying to be quiet.
Please do.
All right, so then I want you to talk about let's talk about the millionaire journey. And what is the millionaire journey? Again, Darnell, this is a one shot. Cool? The millionaire journey. Tell me about the whole concept for the millionaire journey. That's fine. You can start whenever you like.
The millionaire journey is designed to help people develop a tailor-made wealth plan where their money will last beyond their lifetime. The Bible says in Proverbs 13, it says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Therefore, God never expected us to invest our money to retire, but he expects us to have wealth that will last beyond our lifetime. And so the millionaire journey is designed to help people enter into a wealth cycle so that wherever they are, whatever they're doing, their money's working a lot harder than they are.
And so the millionaire journey is not just a conversation about money. It is a program. It is a curriculum.
Right.
It is a series. Let's talk about all of the components of the millionaire journey. And I'm not on air, but we can hear you in the back.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's talk about the different facets of the millionaire journey.
Okay. I'm sorry, Darnell. Is that Gwen?
Hey,
Okay,
that's okay.
Get ready.
Sorry, guys.
Hey.
Looks like a TV studio.
I know, huh?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go like, yeah.
I'm rolling.
Millionaire journey.
So the millionaire journey is really about money because money is a vehicle that is designed to take you to a destination for a purpose. And so the real question is not the destination where it is taking you, but the purpose for you getting to that destination. And so what we look at in the millionaire journey is that we recognize that, and every person must recognize that they are different and unique. They are a masterpiece. And different means not the same. Unique means one of a kind. And so every person has been designed as an original. And you know, I love art, and an original work of art is very, very valuable. It's a masterpiece. And original work of art, you could get a copy if you go to the museum and look at some of the masterpieces of the original works, that they are for $1 million, $3 million, $5 million. But then you can go to the mall and you can get that same $1 million piece that's in the museum for $45. So notice what's happening. The original is what's really valuable. But so often in our lives, we've been created as a designer's original, but we try to be what someone else is or do what someone else is doing, and we become a cheap copy of a great original. And so what's important is that we must recognize that I've been created different and unique. And oftentimes what I've seen, people are going to this seminar or that seminar to see how someone else have made their money, how they sell real estate, how they buy real estate. and they seek to become wealthy doing what someone else have done. But you know what? If you haven't been created that way, then it won't work for you. So there is a tailor-made wealth plan that God has for you. And the way that I like to look at it is that based on what you want to accomplish, based on where you want to go, that there are different vehicles that will get you there. And do you know if someone wants to go to Louisiana, that they can go by car. But if someone wants to go to Hawaii, it's impossible for them to take. And so if money will take us to a destination for a purpose. And what I have recognized is that people have been created different and unique. Different's not the same, unique is one of a kind. So every person they have been created by God as a masterpiece. And do you know, if we look at art, masterpieces or original works of art are very valuable. But you can get an original piece of work for $1 million or $5 million, but you can go to the mall and get a copy of that original for $45. So the value is in the original. And what we must recognize is that all of us have been created as a designer's original. Very, very valuable. But what we try and do is do what someone else has done, and because of that, we become cheap copies of great originals, and we devalue what God has created, very valuable. Therefore, I've recognized that individuals are looking for an opportunity to discover what's on the inside of them, but what they do is they would go to seminars and find out how this person purchase real estate or sell real estate, how this person has created wealth, and then they try and do what someone else has done. But if you have not been created and wired that way, what worked for them won't work for you. Therefore, God has created every person tailor-made. And there is a tailor-made wealth plan for you. There's a tailor-made wealth plan for me. There's a tailor-made wealth plan. So in the millionaire journey, what we do is we take people through the process so that they can recognize that tailor-made wealth plan for themselves. And so every person has been created a genius. And a genius is exceptional in some things, but a genius is not good at everything. And so what we must discover is what we are a genius at. And when we say that, many people will look at themselves and they will say, I'm not a genius, but yes, you are. Well, how are you a genius? Well, if we look at Einstein, they put Einstein out of school because they said he was incapable of learning. But we know him as what? A genius. So a genius is good at some things, but a genius is not good at everything. And so what I have discovered is that every person has wealth. It is either in your hand, it is something you can do, it's in your ability, something you know, or it's in your house, something you already have or own. The challenge with us is that we have non-performing assets. And my background, I have an accounting background, and I moved over from accounting to investments. And one of the things you don't like to see in business are company with a lot of non-performing assets. So what we want to do is help people identify those non-performing assets and convert those non-performing assets into performing assets, and they'll move into a wealth cycle.
So how do people find out about this program?
Well, what you can do is you can go online at themillionairejourney.org. And it is a website that I have set up where individuals can find information out about the program, about the curriculum. They can order online the curriculum. And I believe that if individuals are willing to go through it and do the work, then they'll be able to come out and leave a legacy, for a wealth legacy for a lifetime. And you know, one of the things that I recognize is that we have to redefine compensation. And I see that there are 3 levels of compensation. Hourly equals compensation. That's the lowest form of compensation. And the challenge is that most companies will pay you for what you have that everyone else has. So hourly equals compensation. But then there's another level of compensation called hourly plus ability equals compensation. And that's better than hourly equals compensation, because we know that hourly is minimum wage or being paid by the time that you put in. But hourly plus ability is better, but It's like a doctor who has been trained to perform surgery, but they won't get paid for the surgery unless they put the time in to do it. And so it still is factoring in your time. I believe that the highest level of compensation is your ability equals your compensation. And so it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're on the beaches in Hawaii, if you're in Bermuda on the beaches, that whether you're putting time in or not, you're still earning compensation. And that's where I believe that individuals should live their lives.
You mentioned that you have a background in accounting and a background in investments.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I have an undergraduate degree in accounting, and I transitioned into the investment arena, and I worked on Wall Street managing a little over $10 billion, and it was the second largest investment fund in the country at that time. And I left New York and came to the Houston area, and I started an investment firm, and in 7 years I grew it to $2.5 billion. And I sold my portion and went to School of Ministry. And I, right now, have the wonderful privilege of leading, pastoring a church, and leading a group of individuals where not only do I have the opportunity to do something that will impact their future, but I can do something to impact their days and their weeks.
Anything else that you'd like to share with us?
You know, I believe that it's really important that individuals discover their calling. And when you say calling, it simply means that there is someone who is calling, which is God. And they're calling something out of each of us. What are they calling? They're calling the ability that He's placed on the inside. He's calling that out of us. The challenge in life that people pursue careers. You know what a career in the French and the Latin, it means a racetrack and a cart. So what happens when people pursue a career, they get in a cart and they go at a high rate of speed around a racetrack. But the challenge with the racetrack is that it ends up where it starts. So that's where a midlife crisis comes in, where people are so exhausted and they've been pursuing a career, but at one day they look at their lives and they recognize that they're at the same place where they started. And so I believe that we need to pursue a calling, and you'll have many different careers, you can have many different jobs, but you'll only have one calling. And so in this millionaire journey, we help you discover that calling, which is part of the natural ability that God has given you to be exceptional, that God has given you to be exceptional, which will cause you to create wealth in your life. And when you discover that calling and begin to pursue it, then you'll begin to enter into that wealth cycle, and you'll be able to have wealth that will last beyond your life.